Hi, welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, I wonder if you know how some of the most famous people got their start, how they made their breakthrough, and actually found the success that we think was always with them. Well, it wasn't always with them. Lots of people actually made their success, and I was thinking about the story that I saw for a book called Erroneous Zones. Erroneous Zones was written by a man called Wayne Dyer. And Wayne Dyer has since become a motivational speaker, lecturer, and just general motivational force for helping people to improve their lives and realize their potential. Well, I looked at his story and it was pretty incredible, whether you know it or not. He wrote the book Erroneous Zones, and back then it was all about the traditional publishers. Now, traditional publishers were gods in their own eyes. They were gods in their own eyes. Beth is working at the back of me, so if you hear an occasional noise butting in, it's by accident. So, how did Wayne Dyer get his book into the public eye? Well, when he finally got the book published, and what actually happened, this is in America, and what actually happened was he spoke to the publisher, and I guess he made some kind of connection with him, made friends. He got the book published, and they agreed, and this is very difficult, was very difficult in the old days of traditional publishing. He got him to, I think he printed, I don't know whether it was 10,000 or 30,000. No, 30,000 would have been pretty big. But he got him to print the first print of the book. Now, what normally happens is so many books are written and released on traditional lines. Every week the number is staggering, a little bit like some of the records that are made of various songs, and only a fraction of them get through. Well, once he got the books printed, so the books were printed and they were out there. Now, what his friend said, his friend in the publishing said, was that if that goes well, then we will do another print. So let's pick a number out of the air and say that they printed up 5,000 books. His promise to Wayne Dyer was that we'll look at this again, and if it's gone well, then we'll do another print. But he warned Wayne Dyer, this is an unknown book, you're not highly publicized, you're a new writer, this is going to be a tough one. He warned him. Well, Wayne Dyer decided that he wasn't going to wait for fate to find him, that he was going to create it himself. So what he did was, he got himself, well, it is America, he got himself a license to sell books. Can you believe that? You need a license to sell books. Sometimes getting a bit crude again. I think that America you'll need to have a license to fart. Sorry about that. Well, he went out and he bought all of the books, every one, and then he had let's say it was 5,000 books in his garage, and then he spoke to his friend and he said, so how's the sales going? So the friend said, oh, hold on, Wayne, look, let's get real about this, you know. You only just had that print done, and you want to know how the sales are going? You'll be lucky if you've sold even I don't know, a dozen. And it was very pessimistic. Well, Wayne knew better, that all of the books were gone, so he persisted and he said, well, would you just have a look? Now, Wayne, don't start hassling me on this. Now, please, just, what harm can it do? Just have a look. Well, the friend had a look. They're all sold. You've sold out on your first print. And Wayne said, what? Gosh, I wonder how that could have happened. So, will you print some more? So, they printed up, say, another 5,000. Well, I think he went out and he bought those as well. Now, he had all of those books in his garage. What the heck are you going to do with that many books? So he made a plan. He had one of those big clunker estate wagons that you can practically live with a family of 5 inside the back. And he loaded up all of the books and he went on the road. What he did was, he got his wife, I think it was, to call ahead to various libraries. They researched this, not libraries, bookstores. They searched it on the bookstores, and when he was about to hit town, she would call the bookstore and say, "Oh, do you happen to have copies of Erroneous Zones?" And the person on the desk would say, "Erroneous Zones? No, who wrote it? What's the author?" "Oh, it's actually, I'm just looking at a book now. It's somebody called Wayne Dyer." It says Wayne Dyer. No idea. Well, anyway, fine. And then I think he got somebody else to call. "Erroneous Zones, can you reserve me a copy? I'm coming in." "Erroneous Zones?" And the man said, "Somebody else just mentioned about Erroneous Zones. Is that by that Wayne Dyer?" So then Wayne Dyer rolled into town, and he called them up and said, I'm trying to find a copy of that Wayne Dyer book, and the man says, "Oh, I know it. You mean Erroneous Zones?" Well, they're all on the same track now. So when he finally goes into the store that has been assailed by all of these comments and inquiries, he finds the guy, and I guess he got his name. It was Harry here, the one that handled. And he goes in and he says, "I'm Wayne Dyer." "You're Wayne Dyer? You know, I've been having..." You see what happened? He generated some interest. And then he said to the guy, "Listen, I'm on a book tour. Do you want some books?" So the guy said, "Well, what the heck, why not?" And he got some books on, I'm guessing, sale and return. What did they do then? Got back into the car, and they did the same thing again and again and again and again, and he toured around the country, and finally the thing started to register, and people heard about that. The other thing that he did was he called the local radio station, and he'd already, I guess, done some softening up for the book with the radio station. And he said, "I'm Wayne Dyer. I've got this book in at the local bookstore, and I'm coming through town on a book tour. Why don't I come in and have a chat with you?" So he went in. He did a talk. He talked about his book. It was a good book. It became a bestseller. So he's heard on radio, local radio, and then people are told, you can get a copy of this book in your local bookstore. So people were going down there, and they were inquiring at the same bookstore, and the same guy is saying, "Wayne Dyer, that name again." Well, this had the domino effect. It just piled up and piled up and piled up, and he made, until he'd sold all of his books or got rid of them all, and then he invested in another pile of books, and that sent the statistic on the book up, and you can see that actually he created his own hype. He hyped the book by going out and doing it the hard way. He took his books out and he sold them. So the idea that books just come on the market and just sell is actually not quite true. But then there are other coincidences. I thought about this because I was talking I've spoken on different occasions about a book which actually had an effect on me. The books I remember obviously are the ones that have an effect on me, and one of the ones I believed was called Quantum Success. Now, I haven't been able to remember the name of the artist or the author still, but she actually has a Facebook page now, and she operates her mission for helping people through quantum reality, and she has this she's obviously seen, and her book was Quantum Success. Well, our visitor over the last few days, Sean, he brought a box full of gifts, personal gifts for Beth and I, and just all kinds of things. Some nice things for Beth, nice things that a woman would want for the house, nice piece of porcelain sculpture, and just some things like that. And then he said, he gave me, handed me a parcel which was obviously a wrapped up book. And he said, I've heard you talk about this book, but you couldn't bring it with you from America. You had to leave it behind. So he said, I found a copy. Well, he not only found a copy of Quantum Success, but this copy has been autographed, as you can see there, and autographed by the author. But here's how it's funny how it works. It's not the same author, so there must be a slight difference in the title. But Quantum Success, here it is. And this one, indeed, I don't believe that's Bobby DePorter is the one that wrote the book that I read. But, of course, Jack Canfield has done a little quote on the front, which Jack Canfield is the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, which I read. Even he, Chicken Soup for the Soul, has sold millions and millions of books. I think it was somewhere in the region when I read about it was something like 8 million copies have been sold. Massive. Jack Canfield had a problem trying to sell that book when he'd actually written it, and one traditional publisher even was quite a put-down expert. He said, "Well, you expect to sell a book called Chicken Soup for the Soul?" And he threw them out. They went round a lot of publishers before they finally found their home, and that was in a publishing company that knew what Chicken Soup for the Soul would really mean to many, many people. Now, why am I bothering to do this? Well, from the other book of Chicken Soup for the Soul, I've made some I've made some quotes just from what I remember, because I remember reading things like purity of intent. That was from the book that I read then. Purity of intent. In other words, this is all to do with that movie that was brought out. That was it just talked about the secret, and that the secret to having what you want is much simpler than you think. Well, part of what they said was indeed true, and it helped a lot of people. It helped me at the time. I remember that I took in a lot of the stuff from The Secret, and I've talked about a book that was written and which had a big effect on me by somebody who took part in that Secret movie. But here, the thinking in with a pure intent, thinking with a pure intent about those things that you would like to happen in your life, and all of the changes in our life start with thought. And the thought may not be deliberate. It might not be one of those where you go, "Oh, I wish that I had a so-and-so car." They don't all start with that. as we go along in our lives, we're filtering out what we want to hear, but other stuff that we don't want to hear can get through, and some of it can be very limiting in our belief system. Parents often are not good at passing on good intent. Instead, they pass on some of the negative stuff. You know, everybody will remember, if they've had even slightly abusive parents, they'll have been told some limiting belief. Well, you'll never get anywhere with that attitude, son or daughter, and it all affects us. So when you talk about purity of intent, you're really talking about what the exact thinking process is to get what you want, what you feel you need to make your next step in life. And so whenever you think about what you would like, be it a business or anything that you want to do, a career in music, a career on stage, career in business, in a certain kind of business, whether you want to be an author, or whether you want to be a sculptor, or whether you want to be an astronaut, having the purity of intent is that you do not cloud your wish, your outgoing wish, which you are sending out into the universe, or which you are giving in a prayer to God, or Jesus, or your Lord, or Buddha, anybody that you think is going to help to process your wish, okay? Don't cloud it with, if only I could have this, I'd be happy. That's not going to work, because there's desperation attached to that. It says, I've got to have this before I can be happy. Desperation, disbelief that you can ever have that, because if you're crying in the first place, that's no good. And if you're saying a condition, well, if we're talking in terms of God, you don't put conditions on God, and you don't put conditions on the universe. However you want to acknowledge the divine power is fine by me, but you don't tell the powers that be. You don't tell the God power what is best for you. You ask and you say, if it is for the better good of everyone, all concerned, could I be granted this as a wish? And that's a way that you can put it. Well, in here he talks about, I'm sorry, Miss Bobby. She talks about an energy shift that propelled my vision into dynamic focus was the result of a series of fast-spinning life events that culminated in the summer of 1982 in the meadows of Lake Tahoe. And what her partner and her had just done was they'd completed their first super camp for kids. The premise of the camp was that every kid has a hidden genius. The goal of the camp is to help them bring it out. On the first day, the kids had walked in full of certainty. When they walked out 10 days later, they were radiating joy, enthusiasm and energy. They had discovered themselves. So obviously, they're presented with a load of challenges which they may or may not be confident at first, but because everybody else is doing them, they'll have a try at something that they normally wouldn't. And in doing so, they would gain in strength and confidence. So she says, I remember one particular kid who came in very quiet and shy. He went through the whole experience slowly and hesitantly. And I felt the whole time as though I just couldn't get a read on him. She could not get to him, make a connection. Then at the end, when we all gathered to make our farewell speeches, he got up and spoke to the entire group about how much the experience had done for him. He said it changed his life. In that moment, everything snapped into clarity. I realized that my inner vision of helping kids discover their greatness and the need I saw in the world had all come together. Bam! I had become my vision. which made it possible for me to focus all my energies here and continue in this direction. From that day, I had the sense that I was moving faster and faster in a direction that felt like what my life was all about. And that was 25 years ago. Now, why is it of great interest to me? Because I've said about our own, Beth and I, and our own mission. Our own mission is to help, and the way that that help has been coming is to meet and put out fires like we are first responders. But many people, many subs who we respect, even though they may not realize it and may think that we don't take any notice of suggestions that are made, talk about education. And what is beginning to bear fruit is that we would like to be able to teach kids how they can transcend their present situation of living on a dirt floor and never getting to do things. Now, the way that this has blossomed in the beginning is that we developed what we called our first experience trips for kids, where kids got a first experience of something that was completely new to them. Now, this is in very basic terms what we did. We took kids for the first time to McDonald's. Now, in the West, I know that lots of people, well, we know that lots of people, because they wrote to us and told us, no, that's not very healthy, is it, taking them to McDonald's? Well, you have to put yourself into the mindset of a kid who perhaps has watched television here or there and been the effect of the advertising of McDonald's as being a fun place to go. Like Walt Disney, or as Beth says, Wally Disney. Wally Disney. They've hyped McDonald's into being the same as Disney, like the happiest place on earth. And McDonald's took that and used it in their own marketing campaign. It's a happy place. And kids remember that. So to actually go to McDonald's was a big thing. It was a first experience. Another first experience we did was taking them to a restaurant where somebody served them their food, where there was it's the Philippines, so it's not a knife, fork and spoon, it's a spoon and a fork. And they had a glass at the table, and they got a Coca-Cola or something else that's not healthy, I know, but they got served. They were able to have something, and everything was served in dishes that matched. Everybody had the same dish. It was amazing, not odd dishes. Even now, we eat on odd dishes. One dish bought here, or brought there, or came from here, or came from there. And our choice is very, very simple. So we gave children a first experience of a restaurant. Totally out of their zone. They'd never had that. We took them to a store, a large store in Taliban. The only large store in Taliban is Al Taurus, and we took them there. At one time, we'd taken several different batches of kids. Once we took about 17, then it became 23, and I think the last one that we took was something like 43 kids. Can you imagine what the salespeople thought when we walked in with that crowd? But they were incredibly well behaved, beautifully well behaved, and such a joy to watch. Another one is that we took them to a swimming pool, a big swimming pool in a local resort, Baraka, and we took them there. And we took them there, and we took some of the parents as well, so that we would have lots of people who were watching the kids, making sure that everything was okay. Also, they have the equivalent of a lifeguard, closest equivalent of a lifeguard there, and he's got his eagle eye on kids in the kiddie pool. So it seems to me that the way that we're going, and I'm looking forward to reading this book of quantum success, because it seems that Miss Bobby DePorter had a similar vision to us, and maybe I can, along with Beth, maybe we can bring something like that, where we're going to pick up kids for the day and we're going to give them some challenges, and so I'm looking forward. This has caused me, I always believe that the right book will come along at the right time, and you will learn what you need to do. There is that formula that they say that if you want to do something, if you need to find somebody who could be instrumental in helping you to the next step in your mission, whatever that mission is, whether it's a personal mission of becoming famous, becoming a famous singer, or whatever, author, you're only 6 contacts away. Right, now, don't hold my feet to the fire if it turns out that it's 7, or you might get lucky and in 5, do it in 5. But the principle behind it is that you keep on trying, and you keep on talking to the next person, and to the next, and to the next. A friend of mine who was a contractor in England, and he told me, this is grassroots wisdom. He said, when I need a carpenter, he said, everyone I speak to, be it somebody in the supermarket, be it someone at the gas station, he said, I tell them, do you know a carpenter? And he said, eventually someone would say, actually I do. So, I'm looking forward to reading this book, and I'm going to be coming back and telling you what's happened. Eventually, all things pass, our difficulty will pass, and even though we're not soliciting funds, not that I ever put it like that, we're not taking help with any projects at the moment, because we have agreed with the DSWD that we won't do that until our paperwork is processed. We actually were supposed to see our attorney yesterday, and but yesterday was Independence Day, even in this country, and today we were supposed to go down for a 10 o'clock appointment, and guess what? He wasn't there, and he didn't show up during the day, and he hasn't answered our texts or messages yet, so it looks like we're going to be down there camping outside his door tomorrow. So we will be talking again, no doubt. Thank you for listening. I hope you are still here with us, and I hope that it benefits you. Thank you for being so supportive, all of the supportive comments that we've had. Believe me, it does help. There are too many for me to answer to every single one, but I read every single one. Please continue to give us your support, your moral support. I am always thrilled to get a message that talks about a success in any aspect of anything. I'm always interested in that. I'm overjoyed. We shared the vision yesterday. We shared the vision of a paradise resort in beautiful countryside overlooking a whole lake that had been something like 8 hectares of water that has been developed from a dam that has been put in a local area that's fairly close to us. And our friends are New Zealanders, New Zealander Michael and his Filipino wife Bonnie, and they are making this happen. And we'll be doing work in progress on videos on that too, just to let you know. So thanks for looking in. This is A Foreigner in the Philippines. Please share our videos, because it makes a huge difference to the way that we can do our work when we're licensed to do it. I have to put that little proviso in. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. This is A Foreigner in the Philippines. Bye for now.